Okay, a very warm welcome to today's webinar. We are co-hosting, Mara, together with Mews and Capsule Hotel. Happy you could all make it. So today's webinar is Turn Guest Feedback into Action. And basically, what we're looking at today is knowing your guest preferences before they check in. I think that's how you can put it very, very short. But before we dive into that topic, let me please introduce you to who is with us today. By the way, I'm Max. I'm one of the co-founders of Mara, and I'll be moderating this a little bit today. So with us today, today's participants, first, let me welcome Dominik, who is sales director at Mews. He studied hospitality management and before, switching sides, so to say, he was with Marriott and Minor or NH Hotel Group in different capacities for about 5 years. So you, Dominik, really know the hotel business from a hotel's perspective. Very warm welcome, Dominik. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Then we got Hendrik, who is head of technology at Capsule Hotel, and we will hear a bit about Capsule in a second. And after working in roles outside of hospitality, he's basically coming from hotel operations as a former back office manager at Capsule, and then I think it's fair to say you found your passion for hotel tech and then made your way to head of technology. So you as well know hotel operations in and out. And again, also to you, welcome, Hendrik. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Welcome.
And then last but not least, Tobi, who is my co-founder of Mara. He has more of a tech background, studied computer science and was with SAP before we got to know each other at a chair for marketing and sales. And then we then started Mara in 2022. And just as a background, Mara originally was an AI and natural language processing firm for the consumer goods industry before we then learned about the struggles in reputation management for hotels and decided to bring actual intelligence into the industry in 2022. And to you as well, Tobi, thank you for being with us today, and also with me for 5 years now. Quick reminder slide more for myself, because I always forget to tell that in our webinars. You can put questions either into the chat in Teams, or there is a Q&A feature as well. Just put your questions there when there are any. Don't hesitate to put any questions in there. That makes the discussion later on a little bit more lively. And before diving right into the topic, we would like to give you a brief insight into our company so that you can kind of understand our roles in this matter. And we will start with Hendrik, of course. So setting the stage with Hendrik, could you briefly explain to us Capsule Hotels and what makes your product special, please?
Yes. So basically, Capsule Hotel started in 2018 with a small hotel in Lucerne. Back then, basically, we were trying to see if this concept, what originally comes from Japan, also works in Europe and also attracts European guests. After a short time, actually, it stated out that it works quite well. The hotel was full. And from there, we developed the operations, we developed the tech stack, we developed the whole concept and also developed our own capsules to make it even more fit. And then fast forward to today, we have 5 locations. 4 of them are in Switzerland and 1 is in Denmark. And I think what our guests really appreciate is the privacy and the safety that the capsule provides. But then also the affordable location. We are always super central in the cities. And yes, it's an affordable location and a super nice design in the hotel. So that's what really stands out there.
So with the privacy and safety, you mean because the concept is a little bit in between a hostel and a hotel, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. That's where we place ourselves. Basically, you get the vibe of a hostel because there are more capsules in one room. You have a shared bathroom, but then also you get the benefits of a single room because you can close the door. You have your own capsule. It's only you who has the pin to open the capsule, so it also functions as a safe. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Quick question out of interest, is there a specific, because you're head of technology at Capsule, is there a specific strategy or guiding principle that you're trying to pursue when it comes to the hospitality tech that you're using at Capsule?
For us, we had to get it pretty right in the beginning because the first location here in Lucerne, it's now the lab, but there's basically no reception. So from the very beginning, we wanted to make the operations digital and have tech basically supporting our guests in the journey, which of course in the very beginning it was a challenge, but now we managed it quite well. And I think one key point there is to just work also with the right partners. What we try to do is have more smaller partners where we were also able to, and then back then Mews was smaller 5 years or was it 6 years ago? Now it's way bigger. No, but work with smaller partners where basically we were also able to talk to the product manager and develop the product with them together. And I think that worked for us quite well. And yeah, also in the relationship to the partners is worked really well to have the whole tech stack that works together.
Thank you very much for that insight. And we can also say that yeah, we work together closely, which also led to that webinar today, thankfully. So let's move on with this quick introduction. So after a guest stayed with you, they might leave a feedback either in an internal survey or publicly on one of the OTAs or review sites. And that is where Mara comes into play, as Capsule is managing their reviews using Mara. And very briefly, what we do, we're basically an intelligent online reputation management system. And I think to keep it brief, the two main feedbacks we're getting from customers is the quality of our AI, and that is the AI generated answers as well as our analytics, and the simplicity of the system. So there's basically no need for training. It's a modern system, easy to use, not really a manual needed. So summed up, we say we're the easiest way to a 100% response rate, if that is your aim, with one central inbox for all the feedback. We praise ourselves of having the highest quality AI, which fit your hotel, your brand, and so on, and have a night agent working for you. And this night agent is an AI, obviously, providing the answers overnight. And when it comes to analyzing all your feedback, and that's probably what we're focusing on today a little bit, then it basically feels as if you have written all your reviews in just 5 minutes because we summarize them in a smart way. So basically for also today's webinar, Mara's role here is to be the one place where all the feedback from various sources comes together and is analyzed in a smart way. Now, Dominik, while Mara mainly comes into play after a guest stay, you as a PMS are actually relevant before, during, and after the stay. And then again before, hopefully. And I think most people know Mews very well, but can you please maybe give us a brief overview of what makes Mews special from your perspective before we dive into the actual topic?
Certainly. First of all, thanks for the warm welcome. And thanks, Hendrik, for being such a loyal customer and such an early adopter back in the days when Mews definitely wasn't where we are today. Brief overview of who we are and what we do in the hospitality industry. We actually started 13 years ago as one of the first truly cloud-native PMS providers back then. But since then, we definitely evolved far beyond a traditional PMS vendor. So nowadays, we position ourselves more as a strategic tech partner for hoteliers who aim to digitalize the operations and mainly increase efficiency through automation. And coming back to your question, Max, what really sets us apart, in my opinion, is that we do have a very guest-centric approach. And unlike traditional systems, which are usually more focused on inventory and built around inventory, Mews is built around centralized guest profiles, which will be a key topic in today's session as well. We will come back to that later. And in addition, what sets us also apart is the fact that Mews is an open platform, enabling integrations via our, as we call it, marketplace, or through custom-built solutions using our open API. And Mara, as we all know, is one of our freshest integration on the Mews marketplace. It's available for all of our customers globally. So yeah, that's one of our differentiators, I would say, on the market, that we have this flexibility for building tech stacks.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And with this, let's go into the actual topic, turning guest feedback into action. That is what the webinar was titled. And Hendrik, before we go into kind of the technical details of that, can you tell us what problem did you try to solve together with us, and why is it relevant for you and for your operations?
Yeah, sure. So basically, we get a lot of feedback from guests that leave a review after they stayed with us. And we do use these reviews internally to develop our product, to see what do we do right and what could we do better. But then also our approach is to use this data even better or even more and see how can we use it in the actual guest experience and make the stay for the guest even more personalized. And that's a bit where basically the idea came. How can we use the reviews and the feedback that we get also in the customer journey, and especially for our returners that stayed already with us and left a review, because basically at the check-in we didn't have any preference. We did have the preferences from the stay before that they had, for example, a Mews, but then on the feedback they leave in the review is really more insightful, and these information we didn't have at the check-in, and we saw a lot of potential in that to really make the stay even better for the returners, for the guests that come and visit us again, with those information. And yeah, of course, Mara was there the perfect partner to go that way. Yeah.
And discuss if we can build it, right? If I remember correctly, I'm not really sure if it was you approaching us or the other way around. What I remember is Tobi pitching this idea internally for a longer time, and we were always like, yeah, but let's find someone who actually wants that, because we're trying to always develop in a very in a way that we actually listen to the customer and ask if they need something that we might think might be a good idea. And then we found you as a partner, and also the initial feedback after having launched the integration from others is really cool. So looking forward to hearing more about what we actually did then, which would be my bridge to Tobi. So could you tell us how did we approach this and how does it look like in reality? So basically, how are results displayed in Mews and how do we get to that point? Please talk us through that process a little bit, and I would hand over the screen share to you, I think.
Yeah, let me quickly share my screen, and I would actually dive into a live demo.
We see the presenter mode, Toby, but not a huge problem, I think. I can take over later again. Just show the live demo, maybe.
Yeah, perfect. Let me quickly tell you a few words about why we actually believe this is powerful. Actually, when talking to our customers, to Hendrik, but also to many more individual hotels and individual chains, we have the feeling that there is a strong need and wish for delivering more personal guest experiences right now. And actually, what we see is hoteliers have a lot of information at hand already nowadays, but unfortunately, they're not in the systems where they can actually be consumed by the staff. And what we try to accomplish with this integration is making the guest experience more personal by adding what we heard already, by adding guest preferences, information that can be derived from past stays, from the given feedback from reviews, into the hands of the front desk staff, so that they have the information at hand and potentially can do something with it. We believe we as Mara can just play a very small piece of the puzzle, and the main data has to live in a guest-centric system like Mews is. And actually, I remember when I can't remember if Dominik told me about it or if I watched some demo video on LinkedIn, but I just saw this idea of smart tip and summarizing all available information at hand when a guest checks in. And I think this was one of the starting points where we thought, our data can actually provide value at this point of the guest journey. But now let's dive into the demo and show you what actually the integration is doing. So I'm here in the Mews live demo. Afterwards, I'll go through a real-world example from the Capsule Hotel, from one of the Capsule Hotels. I think it's a Lucerne one. But as I can't show the live system in this recorded webinar, I'm now first showing you Mews. I'll not give you a full Mews presentation, but just present the few, because I'm probably not the best person of doing that, but I'll show you what we add with this integration. And we are here in the demo environment. And there is a guest in one of our luxury London hotels. I would expect him to be Swiss, maybe. He stayed at the hotel and left a review. And what the Mara is then doing is analyzing this review and pushing a note into the guest profiles. You see that on the guest profile in this internal tab here, we for the start actually decided to label that a little bit, so that if someone looks at it, knows, it's coming from an AI analysis powered by Mara. It was not added manually by someone. And then there is the guest preference that we actually derive here from the feedback from the review. In this case, it seems to be a sportive person who enjoyed the grass tennis court and the Toblerone chocolate in the minibar. Dominik, please add.
Yeah, just want to highlight the fact that this node sits on the guest profile and not on the reservation itself. So it's not linked to a specific stay, but it's linked to the guest overall. So the node will be there as well for future stays or in different properties, even if it's a multi-property setup. So that really sets us apart, that we have this layer of profiles and not only reservation level.
Yeah. And that is actually super, super important, especially this multi-property setting, right? Because the larger the group, the larger the chain, the more properties, the higher the amount of returning guests to any property within the chain. And that also refers to how powerful this integration can be, because the more nodes then are available and can be shared, and the more guest preferences the front desk might have at hand. But now, what I like best actually is something that is with Mews, and that is something we don't provide. That is the smart tip, and the smart tip just summarizes all of the information about a guest and the reservation in this one smart tip. And from the interviews we did with Capsule, but also with other Mews customers, is that this is something a front office manager or someone at the front desk or a host actually can digest and read before an arrival, because it is condensed, it's short, but it keeps refreshing also when new data comes in automatically, and that's the most important information at hand. And what you see here is that the information coming from the review via the internal notes is also captured in this smart tip. And here it says they have previously expressed enjoyment of the grass tennis court and Toblerone chocolate in the minibar. And yeah, this information can then be used at check-in to highlight, I don't know, the free slots where the tennis court is still available, or placing a little bit more Toblerone chocolate in the minibar pre-arrival. Now, Max, can you maybe share again?
Of course.
And I will quickly talk you through a real-world example, also starting a little bit earlier than the Mews system. And actually, it all starts with a guest feedback. In this case, it's a booking review of Stevens from the United States. This is just a screenshot of the public review on booking.com. We see that this was a very happy guest with a 10 out of 10 rating. Overall, very interesting new concept that was highlighted, but there's also a negative comment. I'm old and it was a little bit difficult for me to climb the ladder to my upper capsule. Maybe Max, you can jump to the next screenshot where we see the note.
Hendrik, is that a typical comment?
I mean, for us, for the capsules, basically that's a really helpful one. But yeah, there are some guests. Maybe fun fact for that, we sometimes have like people that are actually even 85 that like the concept, want to try it. So we hear that sometimes, yeah.
But then they want the lower capsule, preferably.
Then the lower capsule makes more sense, exactly.
Sorry, Tobi.
Yeah. No worries, that was good. In this instance, we created this particular note here. It says, consider offering a lower capsule option for future sales to accommodate the guest preferences for easier access. And now, just fast forwarding to the smart tip that is created by Mews. It captures this information together with other information relevant in the guest profile, but it as you see here in this screenshot, captures this aspect where it says feedback suggesting the option for a lower capsule for easier access. And maybe Hendrik, you can tell the audience what you in this instance might be able to do now with this information here.
Yeah. So basically for us now, the front office is able to check the arrivals for the day. And then we can also see the room category that is booked. And in this case, of course, if there is a lower capsule, we can even beforehand put the guest in the lower capsule. And from there, also the whole communication with the guest can be way better. And because we really know what the guest wants and what this day was before about. And then approach also, hey, we heard your guest feedback from the last day. We put you in the lower capsule now. So from there, and then the storyline is way better from the beginning, and the guest feels really welcome in the hotel.
Cool. So also maybe interesting, this is now our AI pushing stuff into Mews and then Mews AI digesting that, right? So that was also a little bit of back and forth, if I remember correctly, Tobi. I wasn't involved so much in the development of this, that we're actually providing a note in a way that it can be digested by the Mews AI in a meaningful way, right?
Yeah, and it's still ongoing, right? We're still getting, we just launched the integration. We now receive feedback, and there will be improvements in the upcoming month. We heard already some preferring this internal node, because what we learned from the partners we developed that with, especially with Hendrik, is that the information should be in there and should be captured. What we now learn, and the members at Capsule Hotel, the staff is mainly looking at the smart tip. Now we heard from other Mews customers, they also look heavily on all internal nodes, learned that they would prefer to having more bullet point format. So likely in the future, the format might change. You saw that we always have this pre-tag there. That is still needed because in the lower tag, it just says that this was created by an integration, but not by the Mara integration. I heard that this is something that Mews might change in the future. That would make the pre-tag unnecessary, and we can directly start with the actual content and make this internal node more readable as well. So yeah, it's a first starting point, and it delivers the goal of summarizing the guest preferences into the Mews profile, but there's definitely room for improvement for the upcoming months.
Yeah, and there, it's always about details then, right? Getting that off the ground is simple, but then providing something which is actually helpful in daily operations, which people can digest very, very quickly. It's all about details in the end. Also, this is based on Mara AI's analysis. That's not, that's not advertising, but this is actually giving the information, where is this coming from, and not just putting it there and then people have to trust it's true, but it's coming from Mara, and then you can actually also have a look in the system if you want. Thank you very much for talking us through that process, Tobi. Now, Dominik, let me bring you back into play here and also maybe start a more open discussion with that. Maybe you can let us know how this integration with Mara fits into the broader vision you have for Mews, but also for the hospitality industry in general.
Certainly. First of all, let me say that it's really excited to see this coming to life, because I was always in contact with Tobi during the development stage, and seeing that now this as a final result is really great to see. To be honest, I personally say Mara is the perfect fit for any tech stack built around Mews as a PMS in the center, because in our PMS, the guest profile is the core piece of the system, and Mara significantly enriches this specific guest profile by feeding the guest feedback through AI and automation. And this allows actually two things. On the one hand, it allows the maximum personalization for a guest experience, while simultaneously reducing the manual workload, because there's the automated data flow from Mara to Mews. And this actually reflects a key principle we are always aiming for at Mews, which is called user disengagement, meaning we would actually free up the time from the stuff, let the system do whatever can be automated, no more manual tasks, or at least a minimum of it, and then the stuff on site can focus more on what really matters, which is, in our perspective, guest experience, remarkable guest experiences. So in this regard, I would say it's a perfect fit, because you also concentrate on automation, you are deploying AI, and you just share the same vision of a maximum of guest personalization, I would say.
Cool. Thank you very much for these thoughts. Like, this last part of the question, do you have to add anything for that? Like, where do you see hospitality in general heading? I think I found what you just said, the user disengagement, I found quite interesting, because most tech players, at least for the last, 10, 15 years, it was about maximizing the time that people or users spend with those systems. And now I completely agree. It's not for every player in the industry though, but our aim, and I think your aim, and then there are certain other players, is minimizing the time that people have to spend with the system. How do you see that, or maybe also add other thoughts if you want?
Yeah, definitely. So user disengagement is an important topic for us. We actually have a dedicated team at Mews monitoring the, as we call, golden task at Mews. So we identify which are the daily repeated tasks in hotel operations, and then we measure how many clicks does it take, how many seconds does it take, what's the success rate or the failure rate, and we constantly improving these golden task processes to reach a maximum user disengagement. So as I said before, the team can really spend time with the guest. And the result of all this is actually that hotels can start nowadays hiring different types of people for the operations, because in the past you were required to hire people who were experts in system administrators, so to say, who really knows how the system works, but maybe not be the extroverted hosts which you need in the lobby to welcome the guest. And this is of course shifting now, because you can now hire by personality instead of system skills, I would say. So this is the overall vision. What we have for hospitality is that let the tech do what the system needs to do, and hire people who are really a passionate host and care about guest experience.
Cool. Where I think actually it also works quite well. I mean, for our operations, for example, our hotel at the airport in Zurich has 144 beds. And we at the moment do it with one person on shift that basically manages all of the guests and also does the bar part. And this is only possible due to the tech that supports the guest, but then also, of course, the operations. And yeah, that really helps.
And maybe adding to that, even though I'm here as a moderator, but I'm also having a brain that I sometimes use. This, in general, I think it enables two things, like more of these self-service concepts, which go that route of being able to offer the best price possible, basically, in the end. But then also for all these other not traditional concepts, but concepts where it is about human interaction. I think the development in tech will enable these businesses as well, because tech is freeing up time and making time for being an actual hospitality business where people welcome people and care about people and so on and so on. So I think both of that is true. And I personally do not believe in horror scenarios where that kills hospitality in any sense. Dominik, you want to add something?
Yeah, what I experience is when I do kind of workshop events for hotels, for operational teams on site, and there's always often kind of a fear of losing a job or being replaced by tech. And I think it's definitely not the case, because we just want to shift the perspective and say you're not hired for typing in registration cards manually.
Right.
You're hired for being a host. So there shouldn't be a fear of losing a job. There should be excitement of being enabled to do what the industry is all about. So that's my personal take, and also the company vision.
True.
Yeah. And the thing is also due to the tech, the hosts don't have to be so much more on the computer, but they have to have more time to be with the guest and actually communicate. And that's also, I think, the whole idea behind it, that our hosts can actually interact with the guest and show them what to see in Lucerne, what to see in Zurich, and yeah, give them an added value there.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much, everyone, so far. Quick reminder, I've also seen some questions coming in through the chat or the Q&A feature, noted them down, so we will talk about them in a second. Let's, before that, head into a more open discussion, so to say. And before that webinar, Hendrik, Dominik, and Tobi, I asked all of you to think of a question to one of the others without telling them before. So Hendrik, let's start with you. What's your question, and to whom?
I think my question goes to actually all of you. So what I see with the whole tech stack, as a hotelier, we look at the tech stack as like one product. You don't want like a certain product or a certain system in the tech stack to work more than another one. That basically it's one product and it should work as one. And there I see sometimes some problems with integrations, limitations of integrations. Also, I don't know, some partners maybe want to then develop their own product. Everyone tries to do more and more to stand out a bit. But I think the question is, how can we work better, or how can we work together even more to do better integration and to see the tech stack more as the whole customer journey as a product? And yeah, I think that's the question. How can we do it even better together? To see it as a whole customer journey and not only your own product.
Maybe Dominik, you want to start? Sorry, Tobi, you were taking a breath. You want to start?
I see where you're coming from, Hendrik, and I can imagine that from a hotel operator, it's sometimes hard to stay on top of everything when you have to deal with different tech partners, integrations between systems. I can only say that this tremendously got easier, I would say, working with cloud providers instead of having to install any local on-premise integrations. That's the first thing. And I think the integration which we now have between Mara and Mews is a perfect example of how it should work. I personally haven't seen any integration which was live faster than this one, from the start of the idea till the release on the marketplace. So if there is a collaboratively approach and the benefit for all parties, it should work like it did with Mara and Mews. But thanks, Tobi, again for this nice collaboration.
Yeah, thanks for the nice words. And my perspective would be there's already a good starting point done by Mews with having a marketplace and an open API. I think those are the enablers. And in my opinion, there will be probably not soon, this one solution that manages the whole hotel. There will be some central systems, and right now this is usually the PMS, the CRM, the revenue management system, and they have to have all the information needed to perform at best. And then there are supporting solutions like the reputation management system that can add value by providing data, information that can help to work in those systems as efficiently as possible with the minimum engagement needed to concentrate on the guest. And I think this marketplace open API approach that Mews offers enables other providers like Mara to build integrations and add quickly. And in addition, it's again people people supporting us. So also a big thank you back to you, Dominik, pushing us internally, pointing us to the right people. Because having an open API and the documentation is one thing, but in the end, it always needs people who can support in building something and the communication in between. And that was very, very nice and enabled us to build this integration. But yeah, my perspective is that there is already a starting point done by Mews and some other providers. Yeah, that's the first step. And then just looking at us, and I just saw some related questions already. Are there other PMS integrations coming soon? Will there be more? From our perspective, we are open to new integrations. We will not promise any integration coming up next. We really plan and prioritize very short notice. We don't have roadmaps for the next quarter, half year, because we believe we as a still young company have to stay agile and see where the market goes. We love the Mews approach with the central guest profile, which is why we were into the idea very quickly together with Dominik and Hendrik. If we see there is demand and there is the possibility to deliver real value for our customers and for hoteliers, we are open to more integrations. We don't have the capacity to just build the integration for the large landscape in hospitality tech for, I don't know, 30, 40 plus PMS systems, but we'll prioritize those integrations where we see our customers can get really can get value out of it. Yeah.
I think there were two main aspects here from a Mara perspective. And coming back to your question, Hendrik, one, openness in general will enable stuff like that, even if it's about opening kind of our database for partners to connect if they want, right, and not having us to do that, which I think is also one key aspect with Mews. It was quite simple for us to connect to Mews. And then one thing you also said in the very beginning, Hendrik, when I asked you about your tech strategy, the smaller partners, I guess one part of deciding for smaller partners is hyper focus. So we're doing AI, but we're hyper focused on reputation and revenue management. And that's why we're doing exactly that very good. And every integration that we have to build and that we have to maintain might, I'm not saying it does, but it might take focus on pushing further developments for what we're actually trying to do, helping people in that area. And that was also the starting point for that integration that we decided to do this integration, that we actually saw a super valuable use case with having that guest profile enriched by data that we have. And we didn't just do a PMS integration because you need a PMS integration. We're always asking why. Why do you want that? And only if the answer to that makes sense to us, then we're moving to build stuff. So we were in that round of questions you might have for the other participants. Maybe Dominik, handing over to you. What's your question and to whom?
Yeah, question to Hendrik. You mentioned at the beginning that you ran a very efficient operations, I would say, with not so many FTEs involved, I would say. First question, how you run typically a shift with how many people? And when you hire new people, do you hire by personality or still by system skills? Because I can imagine that you also face difficulties finding new stuff.
Yeah, I'm not super involved in these things, but I know from, for example, the host that we hire, it's also exactly what you say. So we try in general to hire all the stuff really strength orientated. We do like a strength finder test with them to see a bit what's their profile. And exactly what you said is not relevant anymore, that you need to be like a huge, I don't know, systems nerd to work for that. But the important skills are you like a hospitality person? Are you open-minded? Are you extrovert? Are you good with the guests? And we do look for these skills to hire people. So it's not necessary that they worked in hospitality, for example, before.
Nice. And when you advertise open roles, you specifically ask for or look for host, do you? Rather than front office manager or Nike?
Exactly,
or...
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So it's host in general. Okay, cool.
Exactly. Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Looking at the clock, Tobi, I might skip your question. I hope you're not angry with me. But there were also some questions around this integration of the data that is consumed, and this is largely around which sources can be matched, how much feedback is matched, and so on. So an actual question was, how can you automatically detect that this is this or that review? Booking might be easy. I don't even think it is too easy because of the booking email address, but harder with TripAdvisor and Google reviews. So how do we match feedback, and how do because also knowing the answer, how what are plans to maybe widening that scope of feedback being matched? Maybe Tobi, you can start quickly and briefly.
Yeah, so we only match when we're 100% certain that this review belongs to this guest. We, for the first step, do not match based on fuzzy matching or the name is similar based on the date range of the stay and the review. It could match because, I don't know, Hendrik R. wrote a review and Hendrik Rankin stayed in the hotel 2 weeks before that. Might be the same. We don't do that at the moment. We right now just match if we're 100% certain. We match around, I'd say, 70% of feedbacks. And then it depends what you do with this feedback. And it depends mainly on how many returning guests do you have, how many properties. The more properties, the higher the share of returning guests in your whole group, and also about data management. As this was mentioned, a large part of probably all of your guest feedbacks and reviews is coming from booking.com, and in Mews, it will create another email in the reservation and also 2 different guest profiles. There are cool features like the match and merge functionality from Mews that you can use to improve the data quality and merge those guest profiles, and then the data would also be in the same guest profile. But this is definitely also an aspect that needs to be taken into account. Right now, we started with public reviews where we are 100% certain that we can match them. As again, roughly 70% of all reviews we can match. And we are currently adding our own surveys that we will in the next couple of months also match and push back into Mews.
Yeah. So looking at extending that data set and also what Tobi said, I want to highlight again, if it's a group setting, as with your 4 properties, or when it's even more, it becomes even more powerful because you will see the feedback that they might have given because of this guest-centric approach that they might have given at another property of yours that can be shared kind of between properties.
Exactly.
And then maybe also Dominik on that duplicate booking.com profile, so to say. I think you've got something which Tobi also just mentioned, how to maybe bring those profiles together, right?
Yeah, so there's certainly also the possibility to auto-merge potential duplicate profiles when it's the same email address. That's for sure. So if it's a repeat guest and it books again with the same email address, it will be auto-merged, no problem. If it's an encoded OTA email from booking.com, for instance, we prompt the guest during the online check-in and ask them, the guest, to provide their real email address. And once revealed, then we can auto-merge the profiles based on this unique identifier, which is the email address. But of course, this is not mandatory for guests, but at least we ask the guest for revealing the real email address. And you, of course, can also position this as a benefit for the guest, saying, hey, we would like to know who you really are, because then you get the benefit of not having to fill out the registration card again. And we know who you are and we know your preferences. This hopefully attracts a lot of guests revealing their real email address. If they are not doing it, as Tobi said, we do have the match and merge functionality where we can then identify potential duplicates and suggest this to be merged from the stuff. And we do this on several parameters like email, name, demographics, and for me, most importantly, tokenized credit cards. So if somebody books with a tokenized credit card or with the credit card through Booking, and there's an existing profile which used the same token before, this is a 100% validation that this is the same guest profile, even though the email address might be encoded.
Just quickly, again, because of the time, 2 questions that I'm going to answer quickly. There is even more. We're trying to answer those through email. Could you please share more information about Mara's general pricing model and its interface with Mews? Just answering that because of this interface question. There is no additional fee for connecting to Mews, and our pricing is solely based on number of properties, kind of a de facto flat rate. And then can we get automatic analysis on certain questions For example, what are the most frequent complaints in period X? This is going to be provided within Mara, not within Mews, because we're enriching guest profiles here. Also, this is early on in the cooperation between those two systems. But exactly what you were saying, like the most frequent topics that people are talking about, this is exactly what we do in our analysis. And we're also working on a way to, internally we call that ask reviews anything. So you can actually chat with your feedback and ask certain questions like what did people like about the breakfast, what didn't they, stuff like that. And then to, again, the other questions that we saw coming in, we try to answer via email. Just as a wrap up, maybe Hendrik, to you, what would be your wish? What do you want us, so Mews and or Mara, to develop in the future? What would be your dream as head of technology at Capsule?
Hey, I think it's an interesting question. No, I think for Mara especially, I see with the reviews and the data that we have with the reviews, it also really adds with the communication. So I think that's something what I would find really interesting to see how can this data actually also be added to the communication. Where at the moment with AI, I anyways think the whole communication part is quite interesting. At the moment, we have different campaigns that we send out, but they are static campaigns where you see your confirmation number and different informations that are important to the guest. But in the future, I see it more as a conversation where you basically can prompt your campaign and then it's more like a conversation and the AI can give the information to the guest when it's really needed. And then you can also plan already your trip. For example, you go to Lucerne, you can plan already your trip with the AI. But then also, and then it comes to Mews, change, like we only want to set the parameters within Mews, and then you can already change your booking via WhatsApp, for example, or do upsell via WhatsApp. And I think then it really heads to like a system where Mews will more be like the back end, and the guest can really already do the planning and everything on their own. Yeah, I think that's something I really envision in the future.
I said you were kind of casually answering one question that also came in, like what other possibility exists in Mews to continue using information from Mara through AI. For example, upselling, emailing, in-stay and in-house communication. And Hendrik answered it. Currently, none of what other than what we presented. But again, this is early days, starting this cooperation and getting it off the ground. So we're actively looking into what other meaningful stuff to do. I'd say thank you very much. Thank you very much for staying with us for 10 more minutes. Thank you to Hendrik, Tobi, and Dominik for taking the time today. And have a great rest of the day, everyone, and see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everybody. Have a nice day. Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.